show everyone? Shall I show everyone my semi-green screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I was waiting for a green screen to come, but it hasn't come. So currently I'm using the green folder, but can you see that I've managed to...
Oh, look at you. Well done, well done.
Scrolling. So you should see what I've put down in the bottom left and bottom right corner, Justin. It's pretty rude. We'll play Guess the Picture later. That's what we'll do.
It's going to be one of those webinars, is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. What was Aidan talking about? A sex toy? Anyway. Right.
Which movie was that? How many minutes into it?
Right, we've got 35 people in, so let's get started before everyone has to listen to me talk for an hour, because it's not going to happen this time. So, let's welcome everyone to the third of the Battle of the Brands. This isn't a pissing competition. This is a bit about, I suppose, getting two brands together that are in the same competing market and tapping into their brain and hopefully getting a lot of information out of, you know, two strong brands in the market at the moment. So I suppose I better introduce myself. I'm Mr. Benjamin Davies, and I am the host / referee of this. We're calling it a fight, Aidan?
No fight.
No fighting. No fight.
This is a loving.
Yeah, it's a loving. And I'm very lucky to be joined by the technical dream team from Blustream of Aidan Jones and Daniel Adams. Give you a little wave, please, people. Say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, good. And all the way from South Africa, we have the one and only Justin Fothergill, the man that lives and breathes HD Anywhere, the brand ambassador, I think we should call him. Is that the right term?
That'll do the job. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so the webinar is a little bit different from probably most of the webinars that are going to be out there. There'll be maybe some swearing, so I'm sorry about that, but that's the way that life goes. A little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't been muted, can you mute yourself? Because we're going to try and keep it between the hosts. That's you as well, Pinder. I can see you in your headphones. And leave the questions to the end. You can drop some questions in the chat box. We'll pick them up as we go along, and at the end we'll try and cover a few of the questions that you've got. If there's anything else, just drop them. If any of our audio drops out or you miss something, just let me know in the chat and I'll try and interrupt and pick it up from there. Yeah, is everyone happy with that? Thumbs up and waves and salutes and all that jazz. We'll take it. There's a lot of people in here now, so it's going to get busy. So you're on the spot, you three. So you've got to make sure you represent well. Yeah.
No pressure.
Gentlemen, first of all, can you give us an update on where your brands currently sit in the economic climate that we currently sit in, and where you personally are? So are you stuck at home? Are you managing to get into the office and all the rest of it? Justin, let's go to you first.
Right, so I'm at home. The joke at the moment at the office is I'm the most well-isolated member of the HDA team because I'm in a different country, on a different continent, and I always work from home. So you're listening to me from my dining room at the moment, which is my makeshift office. Here in South Africa, we've just had a 21-day lockdown announced starting on Thursday. So things are pretty serious here to manage the coronavirus situation. And it's a prevention is better than cure strategy by our government. So for the first time in history, I am proud to say the government's doing a good job. I don't know if I'll ever say that again, but for now, they're doing a good job. Brand-wise, it's business as usual as best we can. The team in the UK is consolidated and doing what everybody else is doing, which is everybody that can and should be working remotely is. And for the rest of it, we've got the necessary staff in the warehouse. We've got our best efforts to keep the operation going. China is spooling back up. So I think for all of us, we're starting to see more activity from our manufacturers, and we're going to be keeping abreast of that. That's where we are.
Okay, cool. Aidan, what about Blustream?
Yeah, pretty much the same from our point of view. I mean, Dan and I don't really live anywhere close to our office in the Midlands anyway, so we have our own semi-permanent setup. Stan's still leaves a little bit to be desired.
Give me a break.
It's died already.
But no, I mean, to be honest, for a couple of weeks now, we've been working sort of remotely, Dan and I anyway, not going into the office, but at the same time, we've had a skeleton staff at the office. You know, we luckily are set up in a way that we can work remotely. We have IP phones for the company, so it's business as usual. We have guys in the warehouse, so still shipping stock, and surprisingly there are still orders coming through thick and fast, which we kind of thought it would just literally dry up as of well, last week, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, or same as Justin said, you know, China is coming back online now, and we are starting to see plenty of stuff going on there. So yeah,
are we going to see a gap in the kind of production line? Obviously, I know you guys all held stock in that period where obviously things started to kind of be on the downturn. But are we going to see a gap from China maybe, where we're going to kind of, I don't know, where their production line stopped, and then I suppose where your stocks end?
I think inevitably there will be a slight pause in certain lines of products, depending on how much we're sitting on of anything. We're quite lucky. We're sat on quite a bit of stock at the moment, but I mean, essentially China's only just getting up and running from, well, since before they went away for Chinese New Year, which, you know, is some weeks ago now. So inevitably there has been a bit of a blip in production and product coming through to other parts of the world, but you know, we'll make good as best we can and work through it. So
is that the same with you, Justin?
Yeah, very similar. The challenge, actually, one of the challenges we've bumped into, just for other businesses here in South Africa as well as HDA, is not the problem of China coming online or whether we can all get stock or not, but the traditional routes, airline routes to bring the stock in are being closed because other countries are adjusting their strategy to deal with the pandemic. Yeah. So what we are seeing is just, you know, and I think, I mean, realistically, and to everybody that's listening, guys, just work with all of us, you know, my two friends at Blustream. You know, the reality is that we're going to have some blips. We're going to have some little hiccups, but yeah, everything seems to be, I mean, everybody's in it to win it, so we're all doing the best we can. But I think the physical routes are going to be the biggest challenge if you're not sea freight.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the brands, about both your brands, because if the guys maybe don't know who you are, or they maybe use one or not, maybe not either of you. Should we have a little bit of a 5 minutes on the clock and just talk about HDA Anywhere and Blustream? Yeah? Should we let Blustream go first? Justin, should we be polite? Let the ladies go first.
Oh, absolutely.
Daniel, it's over to you, my friend.
Do you want to run through?
And you've got 5 minutes to tell me why you're so good.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go over who anybody is in here first? Because do the guys know us all? You obviously.
You take it as you want to take it, Mr. Daniel. It's all down to you, my friend.
Let's give it a roll, shall we? Yeah. So I will open up. Just pinch some slides from a presentation that we do as a brief introduction to Blustream. So I think it comes as a surprise to a few people to know that Blustream's actually an Australian company at its root. I will get Aidan to jump in here if I get anything wrong, because he's used to giving this presentation a bit more than I am. But so Blustream, born out of a need for a distributor to have a video distribution brand, having been turned down by everybody to actually become a distributor of a brand, so created one for themselves. And it's started therefore in Australia and has expanded outward from there. Not a UK based or a European based firm at its heart. The idea is to bring together good partners and to bring together good staff from across the industry to really give the company a huge wealth of experience at its core and at its base in order to to go onwards. Things that we do, you're gonna see from us: HDMI distribution, management, scaling. HD-based T is one of the primary technologies that we work with. We do also have our own video over IP offering based on the A-Speed platform. Moving into things like Dante. which is not something I think that many people see in the residential world, but will certainly become a bit more important. We always used to joke about the hall at IFC being the Pro Hall, the Hall 5 being the Dante Hall. Well, that might come for us as well in the residential world, but because we have products that fit in both the residential and the commercial realm, that's something that we're working for in both. We've always got a lot of R&D on the go, and project management. If I could share that list with you now of how many products are on the way, in the pipeline, it's huge. It's massive, and it's completely ongoing. It doesn't ever stop. We don't really have ups and downs. We are constantly looking at making and building new product. So never ends on the R&D side. We will get slide 2. So just give you a brief overview of where we are in the world. European headquarters is located in Nottingham. We have an office now in Spain, Madrid. With Brexit, you never know whether our stock will actually start to live on mainland Europe or whether it will live in Britain, but that's there are guys out there doing technical support in something like 6 languages to the people on mainland Europe. They're also accessible for you guys as well from the UK. We have got production over in Shenzhen, China, Taipei and Taiwan. We don't hide where these things are built. We don't gloss over that. They are our manufacturing partners. They are they're a team, part of the team, and they work with us as closely as we possibly can do. And they're very frequently, other than at the moment. And then headquarters actually, as we say, in Melbourne in Australia. So we are a bit of a worldwide spread. For me, this is it's probably the most important slide, just to very quickly go over the three corners, the three pieces of the triangle that really have brought Blustream its success. It's all about having the right features for the market, all about hitting the right price point, and all about, I would say, bettering the reliability of our competition as much as we can do. You've got to aim high and aim absolutely for the top. So without these 3 cornerstones, Blustream would not have achieved the success it has to date. And these are the 3 basic rules that we operate on. So hopefully we're always going to get the feature set right. But if feedback tells us we aren't, then we'll fix that. But it's not that we've got 1,500 things on a unit when it only needs to do 5. Do one thing, do it well. Keep it to the core, to the features people actually need and want. And yeah, hopefully being at that right price point for that feature set and producing a product that won't cause you any kind of trouble or any kind of reliability issues. That said, we're at a point in maybe in the video distribution market where product is at a maturation. We've got a lot of product that's very similar. We've kind of reached a good level of reliability across all those brands. So it's about how you differentiate yourselves, and where we pride ourselves, I think, is on the support, is on the backup that we offer people. We've got 3 dedicated individuals in the UK, 2 dedicated individuals in Europe. There are now 2 dedicated individuals in Australia, and between us all, we can provide you guys with about 20 hours a day of support coverage. We don't tend to, it's just no messing around. If you need stuff, we'll get it out to you. If it helps you prove we're a problem or something else is a problem, we'll just get it done. If you need help setting it up before it comes to you or on site, there isn't really an end, I don't think, on a reasonable level to the amount of support that we're here to give you. We are enablers, and our job descriptions in the technical team certainly just say help. It's here to help you in any way that we can, be that education, be that training, be that on-site support, be that whatever you need. You tell us, and we'll see whether we can make it happen for you. That's I think where we've all got to be now, is more on the value-add service side that we provide.
That's your 5 minutes, my friend.
That's all right. That's fine, because the rest of it we'll talk about.
Yeah, good man. See, I actually gave you an extra 20 seconds there, but you can.
Well, make sure you give that extra 20 seconds to Justin as well. Let's play this fair.
Okay. I mean, we'll just chat about football or something in that 20 seconds. But yeah, he'll knock out the park in 3 minutes. I know what he's like.
Well, yeah. You know me, I can talk the hind leg off a donkey, eh?
Okay, right. Go for it. Let's see what's about.
All right, so thank you, and hello everybody. If you're not familiar with HD anywhere, we're based in the Midlands, the West Midlands in the UK. We're a UK company. We have been established there for quite some time. 17 staff, new premises that we took on a couple of years ago. We're quite proud of that because what we were able to build into this was an R&D facility that is spectacular, if I do say so myself. It's like a toy room for tech geeks, and a phenomenal tech support capability and tech support lab as well. So these were important things to us because we needed to be sure that we could give the best possible tech support, give the best possible distributor and logistics support from this facility, and to make sure that we could do that at a global level, essentially. So we've, from a product point of view, from a product development point of view, we focused quite predominantly on the residential market, and we've received some accolades. We've received some great, what's the word I should use here? Feedback, input from the dealers. Whoa, and ultimately, what we try to focus on at HD Anywhere in simple terms is we're very focused on the user experience. We've tried to evolve beyond just making matrices, beyond just making video extenders. We focus very much on the user experience. And from the user experience, we then try and understand the installer experience, because those two experiences define to a large degree what our products are or are not going to do, and how well they're going to be received and what value they really add to people's lives. And it's very important to keep the installers in that, because ultimately the integrators of the world are the guys that are either recommending the product, putting that product in. They want products that work. They want the features that they need. They want the simplicity of installation. They want the reliability of the product. But the user experience means those users are going to enjoy using the product and actually get the most value out of turning their home into somewhere that they love to be and that they love to use. So at HDA, we've put a lot of R&D and effort into that user experience space, and we've differentiated ourselves in many ways because we have this incredible uControl platform that is essentially a free and very capable control platform built into our matrices. We've expanded our API significantly, put a lot of money and effort into making sure our API is as powerful as possible, which in turn has allowed us to also integrate at incredible levels with brands like Control4 and RTI, where we're able to expand their capabilities beyond what even some of them could have done without our products. So we've tried to build this incredibly powerful platform that pays incredibly astute attention to the user experience, to make sure that our uControl or the third-party integration gives them the best possible result, and to make it as easy as possible for integrators. We're constantly looking at new technologies, looking at what technologies are going to define the future of our industry and the future of our products. We're constantly trying to see if we can tweak, improve, polish the existing products that we have, because we're basically getting feedback from around the world, and we're using that feedback to best understand our space and to give the best possible result when it comes to video distribution and video entertainment at homes. So at HD Anywhere, we've focused very much on differentiating ourselves away from building dumb matrices, away from building just boxes, and rather building products that have a design ethic to them that speaks to installers in terms of its software, that speaks to users in terms of the product, and that brings together an amazing entertainment experience in people's homes.
Look at that, 4 minutes. You've got a whole minute, you can talk about anything.
Great, I will. So, about the football, that's non-existent. No, seriously. So, you know, at the end of the day, what we've tried to do, we make video matrices in the simplicity of it. We make extenders. We make some very clever products to solve problems that have been fed to us by dealers. We make a product that can downmix Dolby and DTS and do audio return channel managing. And the reason we have these products is because our integrators have fed us the information, says we have these challenges in the space and we need to fix them. We're building products that really do the very best possible job of making their world as easy as possible, which in turn should also make the user experience as amazing as possible. Have I used up my minute?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a bit. I mean, you can.
Yeah, well, I'll use my 20 seconds then.
Yeah.
But HDA Anywhere, we came into a market that was full of people making products like us. We've done our best to not try and make products like everybody else. And I think the results have shown. We're very blessed and very humbled by the incredible support we've gotten. Here in South Africa, we were able to build HDA Anywhere to be the dominant brand of video distribution in the country. And that is saying quite a lot in a market filled with brands and filled with everything from the cheap Chinese boxes to some very good products. And we've done our best to emulate that.
It's interesting because it kind of goes into the next question that was going to go to both of you guys and talk about what you're doing in the downtime during this like kind of lockdown. And I suppose it's building the brands, isn't it, and making them stronger. And I don't want to. I see within the residential market, particularly, that both Blustream and HDA Anywhere are very powerful brands. There's a lot of people that are behind you, and that kind of support you very strongly from a brand perspective. Is that what you're spending your time currently doing in the lockdown? Is it focusing on your social media, focusing on your website content, that kind of stuff?
Well, if I may chuck in there, we're very blessed to have a pretty powerful website. We've got a team that do an amazing job with that. We have been responding and are building a lot of training dealers, training staff. Heck, we're even training consumers. And the idea is just a lot of people in this time are looking for information. They're looking for a repository of information, if you will. So from a training point of view, that's something we're working on quite aggressively. But the lockdown and the coronavirus and everything is also, it's given us, us as the world, I guess, a lot of opportunity in a way. It's a chance to maybe streamline some of your operations, trying to clean up some of the things you're doing, trying to make the time. There's a great meme that came up about, I feel sorry for all those husbands who told their wives, I'll only do that thing when I get the time to do it. Well, now you've got the time to do it. So nothing like a bit of housekeeping to keep that up. But you know, we're a small focused team. And so certainly at HDA Anywhere, we're using this time to make sure that we're reaching out to our distributors and to our dealers, listening to consumers, listening to forums like yours, and trying to understand what is it now that people have this time on their hands. Are they using our products? How are they using our products? Yeah. What would they expect from products now that they've really got enough time to use them properly? You know, do they wish it could do that and do that, which help us to guide future product development? Or maybe improve things that we're doing now. And certainly as a company, because just like our Blustream friends, it's business as usual. We're still out there. We're still taking orders. We're still delivering orders. And that's a great blessing. But this downtime, I think, has been very valuable because it's exposed a lot of end users to possibly the weaknesses in their systems, or given them the time to trawl the web and find people like us doing things like we're doing. And that can only be good for the industry in the future.
100%. Aidan, how do you feel about it?
No, definitely. I think exactly the same as Mirrored. I mean, we've taken stock of this time, and it's given us the opportunity to maybe take not a back seat, but to be able to actually look inwardly at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and not starting again, but really looking at everyone's feedback to what we're doing, because we now have that time to be able to come and be part of things like this, you know, where we've got 36 other people on the line that hopefully are going to give us some great feedback about the things that we're doing right, the things that we're maybe not doing right, and it gives us the opportunity to actually turn the tides and make our brand better for, you know, the good of everyone on here. But a lot of what we're concentrating on at the moment is testing of new products. When Dan was talking about that, I was pointing at the boxes over my shoulder, which there is a lot of new products there. So it's going to take a fair bit of time, but hey, it is what it is. I would only be traveling between here, Nottingham, and wherever else it might be to do that testing anyway. So to consolidate what I've got to look at here, and Dan has obviously got a big pile sat somewhere. I don't know if it's behind him because it would be covering those
no.
horrendous wires up. But at the same time, training side of things, you know, webinars, we've always done, you know, regular webinars on a variety of different subjects and products and whatever else. We are currently reviewing all of the webinar content at this moment. We've got about 14 different webinar presentations that we give as of well, this week we're ramping up to being able to do pretty much one a day through a variety of different languages from our European counterparts in Madrid, as well as us guys over here. So there's going to be a lot coming out there. We'll try not to drop too much in the events page on the Homey Groups Facebook page, but yeah, there's a lot coming. The other thing is our advanced learning portal, which is our kind of online university, where I'd say probably 50% of the way through refreshing all the content with a lot of the new products that we've brought out over the last couple of months, and what's going to be coming over the next few months will all be on there as well. So there's, you know, there's probably 2 weeks worth of work just on the online university for a couple of people to get their teeth stuck into. And, you know, this thing's not going away in a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of settling in for hopefully not too long, but I think everyone knows deep down this isn't gonna finish, you know, at some point through April. This is going to go on a little bit longer, so gives us great opportunity to do what we need to do, and hence why coming online here today, if we find out what we need to find out now, it gives us the opportunity to go do.
Okay, so if you were an installer out there at the moment and currently on lockdown, what would you kind of, as brands, what would you be kind of telling those guys to focus some of their attention on? You know, obviously the social media side of things, the websites, all the rest of it, the learning side, the webinars. I mean, there's got to be a balance between everything, hasn't there? You can't just sit and do 8 hours of webinars every day, because I think you just go bonkers. So what kind of tips or what kind of ideas have you guys thought about in terms of the installers?
Well, if I may start on that, just to reiterate what Adrian just said as well, the best advice, and I mean, it's everybody's saying it, but really learning is the best thing you could possibly do, even when you're busy. I think it's about developing a habit, a routine for making the time to learn. Yeah. One of the biggest challenges I face as a trainer is first of all, there's two challenges. One is training guys who know everything. You know, you get people who think, oh, I know this, I don't need to know any of this. And you'd be surprised. The reality is our industry, our business, our technology is always evolving. If you look at our two companies here, the amount of money and time we're all investing in R&D and technologies, we have to be thinking 2 to 5 years ahead. And that's where our R&D team is right now, is, you know, planning products for 2 to 5 years from now. The technology is going to be changing. You don't know everything. But a lot of people, when they're so busy being busy, don't make time to do our courses. We've both got e-learning platforms where you can go do courses and gain real knowledge. There are organizations like HDA and Blustream where you can acquire more knowledge, but it's a matter of prioritizing the importance of making the time for that. So, you know, I'm hoping that what we're going to see is that people come to the HD Anywhere e-learning platform, and hell, if you don't have anything else to do, go to the Blustream one if you must, but you know, if you must, but that you make the time to do it, but that becomes routine. I think that's very important. And you're right, you can't do death by webinar, but I would say that one of the things that I would hope a lot of integrators take the time to do now, because it's something I've seen a lot of integrators around the world not necessarily doing. Some of these guys have become businessmen organically, and it's a small operation where that integrator is procurement, purchasing, product development, installation, you know, admin. You've got to be all of that. But what a lot of these guys don't have is procedures, policies, and methodologies in place to run their businesses professionally, as if it was a much bigger corporate. Now would be a good time to be introspective to look at your business and say, how can I make my business better? How can I manage customer expectations that I get paid at the end of the job, that I don't get flack on site from the other contractors? The little things, little pieces of paperwork, little things you could have done or should have done. And you can learn a lot of this from us, from CDA, from whomever, to run your business better. So my 10 cents would be certainly to say, make a routine for learning. Take some time out of your day or your week to always learn, and keep that routine when we go back to whatever normal is going to be. Yeah. And to look at your business and do the things that you probably should have done procedurally, creating documents, change orders, whatever it is you're missing in your business that could make you be more efficient on site when you're back out there. Yeah, that would be my 10 cents.
The amazing thing is that looking at businesses like yourselves, who are much bigger than a lot of the integrators, is that we were almost looking outwards towards you guys to say, could you help us with that? You've probably got, even if it's the smallest things like purchase orders, templates, things like that, that actually would be amazing to filter down to the small businesses that in this situation that could be put into the group and utilized by the thousands of people that are on there that are looking for that information.
I would say there's a good repository of things that CDA have done. I know that not everybody here is members, but CDA are opening that out to be free. There's a lot of a repository of information there, and those guys are there waiting to talk to people to help them. After speaking to some of the guys at CDA recently, they're playing counsellor at the moment as well to some of these guys in very difficult positions. I mean, I would definitely echo what the guys are saying there about now is a time for me is twofold. It's personal development. You never know everything. You definitely got to stick some time aside. Definitely go back to the days of your middle school GCSEs, bite-sized learning, 30 minutes an hour. Keep it, know how your brain learns and don't try to do so much. But right now, looking at procedures, exactly that. But recurring revenue streams like maintenance contracts is a seriously big thing I have, where there are guys out there who've got 30 maintenance contracts, say with 30 customers at 50 quid a month. Well, they're sitting here right now going, great, I've got some income coming in. But the answers are always, I don't know how to write one, I don't know how to create one, I don't know how to get the legal wording right. And that kind of help would be really good right now. And it's something that it's difficult for us to sort of tell people how to write a maintenance contract for an install job. Last time I was doing any install was 12 years ago. Completely different world. I think that the guys at CDA are there perhaps to help people do that, or get some more sharing going in the community to get those kind of things up and running. Right now, obviously what we're all hovering for is this self-employed help. And I think the situation will change if the government come out with more help for the self-employed, which I think is the majority of the UK integrated network. And then when they do that, hopefully the guys can sort of perhaps tune it back and start to get ready for what is going to try and be an economic bounce back. The reason I think that we're putting so much money into keeping people's wages going, keeping the roofs over their head, et cetera, is so that we can economically bounce back from this as fast as possible on the other side. So if you look at that on a micro level, how is your business going to get back up and running as fast as possible at the same level as it was when all of this hit and when all of it arrived, so that we can just get straight back out there and go. They don't want any of this kind of slow speed, pickup. So yeah, I absolutely echo there. Learn what you can do to improve the way you do business and the way you are as a business. Learn about your marketing. I think you got guys like Dylan Patney from HDA Anywhere offering to do HTML5 courses to guys to improve their website. The more we can do of that is great. I think there's always a thin line between whether the advice we give is taken as gospel and actually might not be right for everybody. You need to be an authority on the subject. If you're asking me how to write a set of procedures for a purchase order or getting people to pay on time, you're talking to the wrong person. So we're always going to do as much as we can, but yeah, we're not going to be able to give you everything. I think,
Mark, from my perspective, it's about setting small goals that are achievable. So let's say, I don't know, set up an Instagram account. You're going to say by the end of the week, so I'm going to set up an Instagram account, I'm going to fill it out with all my bio, I'm going to have all my links on there, something that's achievable, that at the end of the week you can say, I've done it, I've finished it. And like Justin said beforehand, setting yourself X amount of hours worth of education per week will give you the goal and make you accountable for doing it. Rather than saying, I'm going to do 2 hours worth of webinars, you can say, right, okay, I'm going to do 16 hours worth of webinars, and I'm going to make myself accountable for those at the end of the week, will make you do it. Whereas if you just log into things and do it for the sake of doing it, you won't have a path. And I think that's how, it's all about kind of A, your mental health, and B, I suppose getting educated and getting your marketing into a perspective that, like you say, on the bounce back, that you're ready to hit it and you're ready to hit it hard. I'm doing that in small goals rather than saying to yourself, right, I'm going to write a website. It's a big thing to do that. So rather than saying, maybe doing the course and helping with like how to write code and all the rest of it, it's great. It's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for people. But setting some of smaller goals in between to get there will probably help you feel like you're maintaining where you are and your goals moving forward. But like I say, everyone's different. Everyone's kind of got a different path to take. But hopefully with the webinars, and the whole reason why we're doing this is A, for communication, because I think it's massively important at the moment that we're not just picking up the phones, but as an industry and as a community, that we're seeing each other, we're speaking to each other, we're airing our problems, we're airing where we're at and where we can focus our attention, so we're not sat at home worrying about how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to do this, all the rest of it. We're all in that pause position at the moment. Some of us are worried, and it's the same with me. I've got a business, and it's the same for you guys. I'm sure it's that, we want this to bounce back as soon as possible. So that's my 2 pence worth. It's probably not worth a lot, but I think is there any other kind of ideas that you guys have thought about maybe doing, or would you like to go out to the group and ask, what kind of things are they looking for?
I think ask.
Yeah, if I may just.
Sorry.
Ask the group. If I may just add to everybody listening, if you look at the money and time, man hours, that our 2 companies have invested in training, in learning, in training ourselves, we have to invest in us learning and continue updating ourselves and our platforms to teach you and to expose you to the right information. There's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be investing in this if we didn't think it was worth our while. And part of this is when you're upskilled, you're going to find less need for our tech support. You're going to find less aggravation dealing with clients and ghosts in your systems on site. When you're upskilled, you become ambassadors for the industry because you're delivering amazing results the first time. You're able to talk comfortably and confidently on emerging technologies, current technologies, what's good, what's bad, which brands are good, which brands are bad, and all of that. So, we're investing a lot of our company's resources into helping you be upskilled and definitely take advantage of that. But yeah, let's hear from the group. What could we all do better to help you?
I better unmute everyone then, hadn't I?
Oh, God.
It's going to be a mess. Right. Oh, straight away, Dylan's on it. Right. Who's got any questions for the guys about based T, about IP,
You could use the raise hands feature if you wanted to. You can mute everybody and then get people to raise their hands.
Oh, wait a second, mate. I'm gonna have to mute everyone, aren't I? And then ask them to unmute themselves.
No.
Maybe raise hands. Just 2 seconds. Right. Aidan, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, yes.
Good man. Right. Okay, guys. Who's got a question? And if not, I'll ask all the questions. And it will suddenly get it's very boring.
Yeah, use the raise hands thing.
Use the raise hands thing. How does that work, mate?
There's a raise. Each of the participants has got a little button at the bottom to raise hand, and then you should see that in your window, and then you can unmute them as necessary. Aidan Jones has raised his hand. Here's a question.
I've just raised my hand.
What question do you have?
I'm just showing.
Oh,
just showing. Do it again, because I mean, I'm obviously a super technical person that should know all about this. Ah, okay. Yeah.
See in the top corner of my little window, my screen, you can see there's a little hand icon there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, someone made a valid point that Johnny Vauxhall's on here, and he usually has about 55,000 questions, and he still hasn't spoken up. So I don't know what that's about. Okay, then I'll ask a question to start it off. So what technology? I know that you can't release obviously everything that you're testing on the rest of it, but what would be the technology that you're looking to implement over the next 6 months to 12 months? Aidan, shoot.
Well, I think there is obviously a good gun here on HD-based T-Spec 3.0. You know, it was announced late last year by Valence. There is some IC out there already with regards to people being able to get their hands on it and start development of products. There was a few chipsets here and there at ISE this year. For those that did make it out there, there was a few less than we thought would be coming out, but you know, it was still a good show, be it at less people than we thought there would be. But I think HD-based T-Spec 3 is a very new and exciting prospect for us as manufacturers, where we've been, I don't want to say duping, but we've been duping ourselves into distributing 18 gigs. With this new specification, we can distribute 18 gigs, uncompressed, unconverted, unadulterated, not played with in any which way that we have to as manufacturers up to now. That is definitely one that we certainly are looking at, because we had a product on our stand at ISE this year. So for me, that's a big one. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Well, Mr. Fellerman has asked what's VoIP's future?
What's VoIP's future? Video over IP's future?
Yeah.
Oh, broad and scary subject. You still have the two camps of a 10 gigabit Ethernet network and a 1 gigabit Ethernet network, and the two systems that are out there. There are two major chipset manufacturers, Activision, the SDVOE, who build the 10 gig solution. There's A-Speed, who produce the 1 gig platform that pretty much everybody uses, bar Crestron in the NVX and at Lona. So till those chipset manufacturers move onwards another step, which is looking like happening this year. So at the moment, your 1 gigabit Ethernet platforms, save from the most expensive at Lona, the OmniStream, and save for NVX and Crestron, will do 10 gig HDMI signals over your 1 gig network. And we're literally at that point with a couple of manufacturers of chip where we might get full 18 gig over a 1 gig Ethernet platform. That's quite an exciting prospect, I think, for a lot of us to have something that competes at a more efficient price point than the NVX. You know, Crestron's 3 times the price of most A-Speed platforms like Multicast from Blustream, like Just Add Power, like Wirestorm Network HD 400. You know, we're waiting for that more cost-effective solution to turn up. It's not HD-based versus video over IP. That's always a good thing to get out there and say. The limitations in the most cost-effective video over IP hardware is why you're beginning to see 16 by 16 HD-based matrices come down into a cost-effective area and go up in terms of sales. We cannot build them fast enough. You know, they are flying out the door, and it means that the VoIP sales actually have come back for some of those jobs that fit into a 16 by 16 frame, because we can do 18 gig. The CSC, whereas a video over IP system is only doing 10 gig. So I think future-wise, it's not the be-all and end-all. It's not going to replace everything, but the future is definitely, I would say, lesser cost full 18 gig devices on a 1 gig network, a lesser cost SDVOE Activision chip for a 10 gig network is definitely on the way, and things will always continue to, the compression algorithms will always get better, so the image quality will always be maintained for the price point and will always keep going. But it's certainly not going to crush HD base T or replace one or the other. But I would say next 12 months, easily watch this space for the next generation of video over IP hardware.
Stuart, I've unmuted Stuart.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that on your head?
Do you know, I'm literally wearing pajamas.
I've
kept it muted because you might hear my kids screaming downstairs.
To be honest, if I stood up, I'm not wearing any trousers.
Oh no.
Please don't stand up. For the sake of our industry, stay seated.
Breaking Bad pants is.
Well, I thought that was the rule, that none of us were wearing trousers. Did I not send
absolutely.
that?
You didn't make that clear.
South African standard footwear, right?
Exactly.
Ew. Oh, yeah.
Right, Stuart, I'm going to let you ask.
You do well, man.
Yeah, no, it's just a couple of quick things. The old Cat 6A versus fiber debate. What should we be cabling? I know the kind of CDA guidelines, but it's still kind of quite woolly out there. And just in the immediate future, I know there's no way to transmit 8K at the moment. That's kind of a conversation later. But is that realistically ground zero or source zero at the moment? Nobody's really.
I don't feel that unless anybody else wants it.
Have you got?
Okay, so VS3000 HD base T 3.0 for uncompressed 18 gig. They are recommending you fit Cat 6A. Right now, at least 1.6A is a good idea. Far from me to tell everybody how to cable, but
I was just because Dan said on the 24th that we must use Cat 6.
Recorded, mate. It's fine.
There is no such thing as future-proofing. Let's put that on the record now. It's a dirty word. I would say a single Cat 6A, and if you did 3 bits of Cat 6 into a double back box, you are opening your world to things like audio return over Cat 6, IR control, 10100 gigabit Ethernet, and video. Fiber is something that we're looking at in terms of maybe outputs on a custom pro card. We're seeing a bit more demand for that to do, true uncompressed. We can go off into the compressed debate about, we live in a compressed world, so why is everybody worried about it being uncompressed at that last stint? But fiber.
Bad statement, mate. We live in a compressed world.
We do. SMC in London, for example, have been putting fiber into people's homes for 20 years, and I don't think they've ever had to terminate a piece of it off yet. But yeah, that one's 50-50 for me. I mean, yeah, you say, well, 8K realistically source zero. I would say the only 8K source devices you're probably ever going to see are next generation games consoles.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, Justin, anything to say?
Yeah, I think in the real world, to very much return what Daniel said, but in the real world, when we get past all the fluff, what are you installing now that your clients are still going to be using in a few years from now, good few years from now? Cat 6A, you're going to be pulling copper for a while, purely because there's also so much politics in our industry. And until there's a major effort of adoption of fiber across a broad scope of manufacturers, and the cost and the complexity perceived come down, and until that happens as a cultural thing in our industry, we're going to be running copper for a very long time. So realistically, you're not doing your client in, Stuart, by putting in a high quality Cat 6A network. It's about, as to use the dirty words, as future proof as you reasonably can make it. And probably about the time you retire from this industry or are forced out by wearing pajamas on site, whichever one comes first. But realistically, you're going to be doing copper for quite some time.
I would round that out just by saying that copper and the RJ45 socket and the RJ45 connector and the way that it's terminated is absolutely lowest common denominator. It's easy to do, it's efficient, it's effective. So they're always going to push back down as much as they can to that already installed retros out there. Our world is run on copper. They're always going to be pushing back to that lowest common denominator connector and cable. So they always try.
Well, I'm laughing because
Nice.
Dan Orange's son has just come in and taken a photo. I think with his top off, mate. Was that right? Second, I'm going to unmute you. Is that right?
Yeah, no clothes at the moment. 2 kids just running around.
Look at Dan. Everyone, let's look at Dan's rack room. That's something to behold.
Wow.
But it's quite messy. It's just small there. And I've just noticed my wall planner is 2018.
Well, mate, you know what? Date's a date. You know what I mean? It wasn't illegal, was it?
Something important happened in 2018, mate.
Yeah.
It was a much better year. Let's just go back to that. Mr. Orange, surely you have something to say. You're a man of many questions.
I've missed a good deal of this talk because Alan Sherlock was in my other ear asking me questions.
Really?
About stuff. Yeah.
I'm really sorry for you.
So I was very much looking forward to it. So I've just been looking back at the questions.
In that many, mate. So you can fire ahead if you've got something. I'm sure you do.
I don't. The Cat 6A that's a brilliant question because we get asked it by customers all the time. You know, what should we be running? And we've done 5 on one job, but now it's mainly just Cat 6A and 3 Cat 6s.
Yeah, standard. Standard. Right, I'm gonna pick on someone. Wait, I know who I'm gonna pick on. Oh, he won't let me, Mr. Paul Parker. Why can't I unmute you?
He's too clever for you.
Yeah.
There he is. There he is.
Algorithm that he's put in.
Far too smart for me as Mr. Parker. Okay, Mr. Quest End himself. Surely you have lots of questions.
Well, loads of questions, but you know, whether that's useful or not.
Yeah, well, they don't have to be. They don't have to be HD base T related. They don't even have to be HD related. If you just want to.
How much wood can a woodchuck chuck? Woodchuck could chuck wood. That's
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
No. So there was with the sort of Cat 6 running of the cable. Obviously, you've got. It was interesting to know what other people do. Whether if you're running to a TV point, typically you're going to need to run a Cat 6A, a couple of Cat 6, and the coax. And I didn't know whether people would normally run that in a one big cable that has them inside, or they run them individually, and the benefits of doing it either way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might have to pick this one up. I don't know if unless Dan's done it in the past. But I mean, we've done both. We've used some of the the cabling from Habitek, which has got everything included. What we found in the past is though that sometimes they don't have that specific set requirement, so you end up running a Cat 6 individually with it. I'm also not a fan of how big it is. This is me personally. I think it's easier to dress down separated cables to a box termination and have them kind of flatter, because the multi-core cables can be a good 30-35 mil in depth, and I think it gives a little. It's a little bit prone to getting trapped, and you end up faffing around with it. You know, so we did a job Central London with it, and we thought this is going to solve all our problems. And actually, that was the last job we did, and we reverted back to individual cables. But that's just my personal opinion. And if someone else has got a particular view on it, then shoot.
Well, to represent the internationals that are here, if I may chuck in my 10 cents, we don't like hybrid cables in South Africa one little bit, but it's also forced upon us because we build out of brick and concrete, and the electricians in this country use 25 mil conduits. So we cannot get those hybrids down the pipes anyway. We have multiple 20 or 25 mil conduits to a TV point.
Yeah.
So here in South Africa, hybrids are virtually a non-entity. We just don't do them.
Yeah,
our building techniques just don't allow for it.
It's an interesting one, and we found there's things like they put 2 core in it, and things that were just years ago were useful for things like IR and all the rest of it, and audio return paths on analog. But I just don't think I think we've moved past it. But again, that's my opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
I think a couple of people are commenting that bend radius is an issue.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, and you end up with I mean, if you've got multiple sources in the house, I mean, we had 12 zones of video in there. It was just, by the time we got it back to the cab, it was an absolute shitstorm in terms of getting it, through the access panels in the roof to get it back to dressing down to the cab. So it's, you lose a bit of flexibility, but you gain at one end. The way that the UK back boxes work out as well is that you can't actually get them through the 20mm hole, so you have to split them up beforehand and then bring them in individually anyway. So yeah, I think cabling's always a big one. I think especially when you're talking about HD based T systems, we've gone through every type of cable to try and, I suppose, omit the problems that you get with these type of systems. What's your standpoint, Dan, on terminating into, let's say, into jacks, like at both ends? Do you prefer a full clean connection from the back of your matrix to the balun, or how do you feel about that kind of termination side of things?
I mean, we do a lovely webinar on all of this.
Do you?
We ran yesterday, so I would say that HD base T is specified in the same way that IP is, as 90 meters of cable and then 2 5-meter patch leads at either end. We always say plug to plug is best practice. It helps you out because you've kept it solid core. And in days gone by, it would have been half of the site visits that we did. It would be down to cabling and cabling bandwidth and infrastructure. And it's absolutely mega important that the infrastructure, there are some basic rules followed, that you're picking a good cable. It's definitely worth noting that a HD base T recommended cable, not a HD base T certified cable, because they don't exist. A HD base T recommended cable may actually not be as good as a cable that hasn't been through that certification program. Just picking a good quality Cat 6 cable is whether from a reputable brand will probably do you just as well. That program will literally just test the cable, is what it says on the tin. So we run a certification and Cat 6 infrastructure webinar that's about 25 to 30 minutes long. It's one of the more popular ones because we do go through a little bit of history. We go through how to terminate. We've got another webinar about logical troubleshooting, and it all feeds into this. If you can, it's all just about trying to make those connections as minimal as possible and using the best quality hardware you can, attach the best quality cable you can, and those things should become invisible. The biggest thing I would say, don't use stranded patch leads. Make patch leads up off the reel. Just make them out of solid core cable, and that more often than not will get rid of most of your problems. Another thing that's quite close to my heart, something we've been hammering home for, I've been hammering home for a decade or more, is testing. If we ask you, have you tested the cable, and you go yes, and you've got a £3 tester from Amazon that's got a bunch of 8 red LEDs on it, if I was there, I'd be taking it and chucking it out the window. Okay, burn it. Right, that's not a test. That is no cable test, and it's a verifier. You've wire mapped it. You've wired from one end to the other. Don't be fooled by spending 120 quid on something that spits information via Bluetooth to your phone. It's still just a verifier. The guys out there, an investment of 1,400, 1,500 quid in a qualifier will save them so much hell. Yeah. So following a few basic rules. The technology is horribly forgiving, which means you can put a cable in badly and get a result. At the end of the day, the thing you see is an image, and you go, well, that image is an image, so it's here. You just have no idea about the performance of the cable run over the longer term or how well that's doing. It's just, I've got a picture, so I'm all right, aren't I? Well, give yourself some headroom, give yourself some space, just follow a few basic rules. So there's all sorts of education that I'm sure both brands can do in terms of cabling infrastructure, but testers. Having a tester, don't tell me that you've gone and spent 600 quid on a drone and that you can't afford a Fluke Cable IQ or a signal.
I really like drones. That's the problem I have.
If you don't have a cable tester, then we're going to fall
We're useful at the moment having a drone, taking photos of basically fuck all because no one's anywhere.
Well, if it helps, I saw a guy in Italy walking his dog with a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
No, I mean, the only downside to that is I don't have a dog. So unless I can walk my tail to the drone, which I'm pretty sure that it's one way to get it up. Yeah, maybe I won't do that. It's probably a bad idea. Okay, we've got loads of questions coming in now. So, and I won't try and take this too long because everyone knows that when I do a webinar or when I do anything, it takes like 15 hours of everyone's time. So there's a question about consoles from Stuart. I'll unmute him for a second and let him do it because I'm sure it's about whether you can place them in the rack or what.
Well, it wasn't actually mine. I was saying it was a great question. Whose was it? Somebody asked it.
Gabby Hughes asked it.
Yeah, no, it's something we hit a lot. You have a big problem with we try to keep the consoles in the room so you have the Bluetooth control, but then normally kind of point to points back to the matrix. Is that how everybody's doing it? Is that how you guys recommend it? Yeah, what's everybody's thoughts?
Any experience with the console stuff?
So generally we found the gamers' latency is the big issue with gaming. The technologies we all use are purposely low latency. I can only give you a South African perspective for this particular thing, but we have found putting consoles in the rack, it simply just doesn't work for us. The houses are too big. We build out of brick and concrete, and the latency on the controllers, and there are ways around that, but the latency on the controllers and their technology, it's not good enough not with consoles. So if you're an Xbox or a PS guy, you want to be feeding that thing back into the system using an extender, and then let the extender bring it back, or making that a local source and then feeding audio return back and bringing the audio back to the system. Those are generally the best strategies.
I mean, I'd echo most of that. Absolutely. I think that there are some important things to note, that you'll get USB extension on some HDBaseT extenders and on some video over IP's hardware. The Xbox One S's, the USB that they use is completely standard, so you can actually extend that, and we've done that successfully with for a few people to just you still end up with a wired controller in the room, so we're not talking about an ideal solution. That works with A-speed video over IP platforms, and it works with HDBaseT. PlayStation 4, even though the new DualShock 4 controllers, the version 2 stuff, can run control commands over the USB cable, it's not done in a manner that's supported by A-speed video over IP platforms. There are USB extenders over Cat5 you can get, but you're still not going to end up with any sort of form of wireless extension. They used to exist for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, but nothing I've seen on the market now to do wireless controller extension.
And the consumer inevitably wants the wireless experience. That's the headache.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But again, sorry, just chip in one last thing. Again, with most consoles, you still, in a lot of cases, want to be local to it anyway. So depending on where your rack is going to be located, you don't necessarily want to be hiding that away wherever it may be, if it's not in the room that you're going to be playing with. Same as Blu-ray players. You don't want to have to be running downstairs to, or even running upstairs to the loft space or where your rack's located, just to change a disc or to put a disc in anyway. There's ways and means. Things like skyboxes and Apple TVs, yeah, we can hide those away all day long, but with a link on HDBaseT being 10 microseconds or something like that, there's no need to have them anywhere other than in the room that you're using them. Send them back to a central location, then bring them back out again. So
yeah,
I like the contentious question from Mr. Parker. The longevity of a matrix in a residential kind of situation. So with Sky X on its way, and when they allow multiple 4K boxes at the moment, we find selling a matrix quite easy by asking the question if you want Sky Q in multiple rooms. I suppose the question that Paul's asking, and mate, just chip in if I'm getting this completely wrong, but where do you see that market kind of playing out?
So for us, matrices, I think, are still going to be an important part of the business for long enough. The end result is, and we're seeing this, there's the politics of our business. So we're going to be able to do multiple Sky Q boxes, but when you've got new players in our industry globally coming into the market, I mean, if you'd said 15 years ago that Disney would have their own streaming service and take on the Netflixes of the world, most people would have gone, yeah, right, whatever. But here we are. And the Disney Plus service wasn't necessarily available everywhere. And so you're going to find, I think, as data becomes more accessible and streaming becomes more real, there's still the politics that goes with it. And this guy wants his box because he wants to control the content and control the format. That guy wants their box. And so we're seeing that for the foreseeable future anyway, we do believe that that matrices per se are still valid and viable because there's an investment in hardware that's already happened. The Apple TV cost whatever it cost, and we're not just going to chuck it in the dustbin. So when you bring these dissimilar systems together, when you bring the Apple versus Android conversation, because we've got so much content on our mobiles, and how we want to bring that content into the distribution, we're still going to have matrices for quite some time. I think what's important, certainly what we've tried to focus on, is how accessible is that matrix? How usable is it? How easy does it make it for the people in that home or that office to get their content where they want it, when they want it? And so that's why we've put so much focus on the user experience side of it. But matrices are still viable for a point. Again, speaking sort of probably a bit more outside the UK, we do have a situation where in some countries, South Africa being one of them, we need bigger, broader, meaner distribution. And that's where I think a matrix is limited.
Your friend, Mr. Pinder, has got an input on this.
Oh, yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's important to not just limit our thinking to Sky Q and Sky as the only source device that people are using, not just in the UK but around the world. Often people are using a mix of source devices, and to have a multiple devices behind every TV in the home just isn't practical still. That's one point. The other is that even when you do have something like Sky X, an app on the TV, there's still going to be a need for audio return channel connectivity if you're using centralized audio distribution. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, we're video matrix and that's our core function, but we're also a connectivity, a two-way connectivity supplier when it comes to audio as well. So as people's systems evolve to incorporate more apps on TVs and other source devices, recently seeing the rise of the Roku and Apple TV, I still think there is an argument to the client that a matrix is still going to provide value in the project.
Okay.
That's my take.
I think also the Sony TVs now, with them bringing out Apple AirPlay directly into them, I can see Apple TV coming directly into the Sony TVs and other TV manufacturers. Actually, the smart TVs are going to be the one. You're not going to need these ancillary boxes, I think, going forward. You're going to have a lot of the smarts directly on the TV. The audio return back to the rack for the distribution is a fair point. But once you've got these smart TVs and then Sky X, apart from pushing a CCTV system throughout the home network or something obscure like that, unfortunately, I think 5 years down the line, you're not going to potentially need them. I mean, I like it. We try and sell a lot of them at the moment, but with new TV features coming on the market and
I think the market's always going to evolve, and I think that none of us are naive enough to believe that the matrix in the residential world is always going to be there, and that's why the commercial side of the market is huge and it lags behind. I think that so there are two areas really. The UK is quite far ahead. We're quite a long way into that curve of these televisions having the smarts and that kind of thing. We see international territories where that isn't happening, where the matrix is still relevant in the residential world. and then the commercial world then lags behind even further, and you end up with more in there as well. So I guess in terms of the longevity in a residential environment, yeah, it's going to reduce. Right now, our most popular combination is to get, you know, your 4 Sky Q boxes into an 8x8 along with a centrally distributed Apple TV if you're lucky. But that's, you know, the Apple TVs go up behind sets because of the Dolby Vision issue, forgiving low latency mode, which is not there in a source yet, but, you know, forgiving, people want to be able to watch that. And if you stick something in a central location and then you're watching, so we're streaming to it, someone else can just pick up what you're watching. There's a privacy issue there as well. So we're kind of, we know we're not, I wouldn't say that we're naive to that. We have a you know, raft of things to keep longevity in the commercial market. And I would say to any of the guys in here, try not to think of yourselves as residential only. You know, look at those commercial opportunities as well, because that will help us. But I think, yeah, Justin will have a bit more of a picture on the international markets, but we certainly see markets where, it's probably an unfair word, but they lag behind in that curve. So therefore, they are emerging, they are growing. Daft as it sounds, things like Mexico, you know, places that we wouldn't be thinking that these devices were going into. They're Australia until October, to a year and a bit ago, they didn't have any 4K television at all. So 4K just wasn't a thing. Whereas in the UK, Sky Q 4K has been there for that much longer. So we might be toning down here and maybe on that path to the residential decline, but in other parts of the world, we're not. And we're all international businesses, you know, brands. So we're okay, fine, we're okay. But we'll always help you guys out with, you know, other products that's still going to remain relevant. The Cat 100AU, bringing ARC audio back from a display to a centralized distribution. There's always going to be product that's relevant, I think, anyway.
I think Dante could be big going forward as well for the residential.
Yeah, Dante is already huge in that commercial world, and it's that interoperability and that reliability is, I'm going to use a horrible word, unprecedented. Really, it's genuinely, they've achieved something that HD Base T want to achieve but never have, and I don't think ever will. There's a huge amount of potential in Dante, and you see people like Elan who are now using Dante internally between their audio matrices and audio amplifiers to create a huge, you know, entirely scalable audio matrix system and amplification system using only Cat5 cables in between them. And it's massively powerful, hugely used in the commercial world already. And as I said, I think right at the beginning to the guys earlier, it's going to grow in the residential space. Things like PoE powered network connected ceiling speakers going back to a network switch, and it's just all part of a Dante audio distribution network. You know, PoE switches can be running your lights eventually, so you might have PoE lighting and PoE ceiling speakers, and then we're really getting into the world where it's all low voltage. You know, there's some exciting stuff there, definitely.
Peter, I think you've got a question. You've got your hand up. I'm actually using the technology now, everyone. I've worked out, yeah. All right, Dan, technical man. Right, I'll unmute you, mate. Right, go for it.
I've done quite a bit of work. Well, I do mostly commercial projects with the TV distribution. So I've used Blustream on a few of my projects. And I quite like the product because it's very fast, you know, for changing screens and different things like that. And it's very interactive, it's very easy. The ACM 200 is very easy to drag and drop and do all that sort of style of things with. But where Daniel was saying about the commercial setting, I have a project that I was looking into at the just before all this shit happened, and basically the hotel have like 140 TVs with a centralized system that they're wanting to run. Is this something Blustream or HD Anywhere would be looking to get into at some point? Because obviously with the
watch Aidan's pants start wetting a little bit. Oh yeah, I probably can.
Yeah. Well, no problem.
Do you know what? There comes. I'll jump in on this one.
Oh, will you? Will you now?
Yeah. No, look. There always
I'll jump in there if you want. I'll help you out on that.
There comes a point when you start talking about hundreds of TVs and hotel environments, that kind of thing, that there's technology out there that already does that and works for that type of thing. An A-speed video over IP platform is not designed for a hotel per se. Yeah, you could probably put it into something like a bespoke hotel with 15 to 20 bedrooms, something along those lines, where you are wanting to be able to take 4K resolutions and give them the type of control that they want and all of the bits and bobs going backwards and forwards. But an IPTV, which is slightly different in the way that it works, is actually been designed where you have a server that streams the content from video, porn, you name it. It's all on there. And before I came into this industry, my computer's frozen.
I thought you were going to say you were in the porn industry there.
Yeah.
I really thought that's where it was going.
Is he back?
It was going to get interesting then.
I spent a lot of time when I was younger at university and whatever else, working in bars and restaurants and hotels and whatnot. And even then, this IPTV thing, it's very cost efficient. Some of them still use RF modulation from a bank of skyboxes sat in a cupboard somewhere, just literally TVs tuned into those channels. The video over IP market at the moment with the A-speed is just not, it's not commercially in a price point way viable to do for, I'd say, anything more than 25 bedrooms or 25 endpoints. Unless that hotelier, which there is not many hoteliers out there that have got money to burn. So it's a difficult one. I'm happy to talk to you about 140 endpoints, but I think we would get half an hour into the conversation. It would be a case of, okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's going to be too much money.
How many endpoints did the Olympics have?
Which one? We're not allowed to talk about that.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, okay, move on. Yeah.
South Korea had 800 there or thereabouts endpoints. The Olympics that up until today was going to go ahead this year, well over 1,000.
It was 2,100, wasn't it, in the end?
God knows. I lose count. The number changes every time we speak to them. But yeah, we're talking lots and lots and lots. So, there are places for it. And I think that goes back to a conversation that we had at the beginning of the webinar, where we turned around and said, what do you look at? Do you look at HD-based T? Do you look at video over IP? It's horses for courses. The technology can quite happily coexist, even within the same environment, creating an ecosystem where there is video over IP platforms working alongside HD-based T, but at the same time, they've both got their places within the market, depending on what install you're looking at that particular time.
Yeah, I think if you're doing digital signage in the hotel, we do a lot of reception areas. If you're doing a video wall in the main viewing area, the bar, that's kind of all doable. I think it's the rooms where people go in and control a skybox dedicated to that room, or they scroll through source devices. There are dedicated systems. I'm just desperately racking my brain for some of them. Teledyne, but yeah, the digital signage within the hotel and that kind of stuff. Yes, the A-speed makes sense, but in the rooms, it's a bit of a different story.
Well, I recommend to anybody, don't ever put on smart homies that you have 140 TVs, because your phone just goes mental.
It's mental, I'm sure.
My phone never stopped for like 3 days.
Welcome to my world. You should have seen when all this happened with the lockdown, the amount of messages I got saying, we're doing a webinar. Is there any chance that we could put it on the group? Probably 15,000 of them. Yeah, so yeah, it's look, the community is there for people to utilize, and I think sometimes manufacturers and distributors get a little bit giddy when a little kind of gem like that lands on the group. Maybe slow the row a little bit, but yeah, Justin, have you got anything to say in regards to that, or?
It's not really our space, but just to kind of support what Daniel and Aidan both said there, when you look at hotels, it kind of speaks to what we're trying to do, which is pay attention to what's the expectation from the user experience point of view. And that's exactly why Aidan's totally right. You know, these products are not made for that space. You know, the user experience in a hotel is very different to a residential user experience, very different to a commercial digital signage experience. And he's exactly right. There's our horses for courses here. And the IPTV would most likely deliver the correct user experience at the correct cost base for the real customer, which is the hotel. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Is anyone else? Any other questions before we start wrapping this up? Oh, it's all gone quiet.
I'm not asking anything about the cable verifiers then.
Cable verifying.
Well, I've got one of these patch and go things.
Oh no, you're gonna call bye.
Right, so,
Bye.
You thought your phone went bad before, Peter. You got another thing.
Well, I've actually been looking for. I've always had one of these £3 testers lying in the boot of the car, but it's broken now.
No.
After about 7 years, it's
it was probably always broken, mate.
Yeah.
You just didn't know.
It always done the job. That's all that mattered. For what I was doing, but I never really done a lot of commercial or a lot of bigger jobs like what you guys would be talking about. But going forward, I was looking at the Fluke, just the tester. But I know you're talking about the Cable IQ, which is what?
Yeah, the Fluke Cable IQ is an excellent qualifier. Yeah. It's going to give you an indicator. Oh, one of these. So yeah, the Ideal Networks Signal Tech or the Ideal Networks VDV2. You're either looking for an advanced verifier or a qualifier, and definitely I would recommend a qualifier. And you're going to invest, as I say, 1,400, 1,500 quid, but you're going to get, you're going to know that video over IP is going to work. You're going to get an excellent indicator as to whether HD-based T will work or not. And then when I've asked you if you've tested the cable on the tech support call, I'm not going to hang up on you when you say all the red LEDs come up in the right order. So it's going to help you out no end. Yeah, they're worth it.
Dan, a little tip. I mean, these are hard times at the moment, and what you'll probably find. So when we first started the company 12 years ago, it was a recession, and we actually picked up our cable IQs, 2 of them, off eBay, and then had them sent to Fluke and had them certified again. And unfortunately, during hard times, people will be downscaling, people will be getting rid of things like that, and you will find some bargains if you can find the money to be able to do it. But like you say, you're still talking about £600, £700 investment. But that's my little tip.
We can see, I mean, Liam's just asking there in the chat about what options there are for specific HD-based T-tests. There are only 2 I'm aware of, and that they are a big investment. You're either talking about an MS Test Pro or from MS Solutions, which used to be about $3,500. I know they've come down, but we have one.
They're about $1,700 now.
About $1,700. I mean, we're more than happy to lend ours out or to come out to site with it, because we understand that investment for integrators is to do a very specific job is possibly too far a stretch. There's also the Smarty unit. They produce one that does a specific HD-based T test, but a 1 gigabit Ethernet test is a really good indicator that HD-based T will work. But HD-based T is 8 gig of data that's being spewed across the line. So unless you have a certifier, which we're talking about $8,000 up, you're not going to be able to test to 10 gigs. So the qualifier is a perfect middle ground. Fox and Hound's good for HDMI. For HD-based T, there are specific testers. But the Fox and Hound, the Meridio stuff, we have 3. We have a 6G set. We have 2 Fox and Hound sets.
This is the groups that obviously the 1AV boys gave us, and so if anyone is struggling on site and needs to borrow it, then all we ask for is a small deposit so we can send it out to you and cover our costs, and we'll send it out to you by post, and we'll ask for it back when you need it back. So that's there. It's there as a resource for the community that 1AV provided for us, which, you know, we always salute them for doing that, sorting us out. And if we had more of those type of tools that we could try and utilize between us all, you know, it's going to make the industry better. It's going to make projects and things like that kind of suppose, more profitable. The be all end all of it. And that's what it all comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah, may get rid of my Fluke multifunction tester and invest in an IQ then.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have a couple of IQs here, and if you've got jobs going on, I mean, it depends on how quickly we all get back to work. Again, we could sort out a way of being able to lend those and get those out there, but obviously we just have to cover ourselves from a risk point of view. That's all it is. But if it's something that people are, I suppose, up for, then we can provide something there, maybe as a solution in the future.
I would say with the cable IQ, we bought one off eBay when we started, and it's just the best thing we've done.
Yeah.
First job we used it on, the builder or the electrician had run the cables. They said, "Oh yeah, it's in, it's working." We plugged it in, and then we could just say 60 meters along here, or I can't remember what it was. There's a fault on these 2 pins, so we could see they'd gone through. And we just say it's your fault, and that's worth the money.
It's a huge thing, isn't it? And the thing is, what we found with it when we used to run cables, now we utilize other third parties to run the cables for us, is that we could, if we did have a problem with it, we could usually work out, because we knew our runs, whereabouts the fault was. I mean, it doesn't make much difference because you can't. It's not like an electrical wiring fault where you can fix the fault. With Cat 5 and Cat 6, once it's gone, it's not great. But at least you could kind of prove the point, to kind of find it above a spotlight or whatever it is. So yeah, no, I agree. It's a huge investment, but I always say to people, how much are you per day? And if you spend 3 days chasing a fault, and it's cost you £900 in your labour, then it's silly that you're not investing in yourself in those tools to be able to do the job properly in the first place. But I also understand from the other side of things, it's not easy to go out there and spunk £1,500 like that. We don't have that kind of money in certain respects. So, it'd be something that, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think everyone knows that I spin about 55 plates at the same time. I spend a good 25 minutes in the shower just thinking about different ideas every morning. And with the Fox and Hound that we've got here, with the other testing tools that we've got here, we could provide some kind of service to be able to get those out and help people that have got specific jobs that want to certify it in a certain way. But it's all supply and demand. If you guys need it, then I'll try and get it out there.
Ben, quick question. Do we have a community cat tester? Fluke?
No, we don't. We don't. No. Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
We might be able to sort something for the community that side of things, not us as Blustream, but certainly know of people that have contacts that we could potentially look into.
That's what I like to hear. Tapping up the people. Let's do it. Who else? Someone's got Dolby Vision. Dan mentioned this is supported on HDBaseT. Are there any transport methods that support it?
Okay, so Dolby Vision is done outside of the HDMI spec on 2.0. So it's a dynamic form of HDR, which means the metadata alters, and the metadata is kept in the frame. The reason that they're making such a yell about HDMI 2.1 actually officially supporting dynamic HDR methods like Dolby Vision is because it's done in a hack way. Dolby have done it outside of and in a proprietary manner. What that means is that we all build equipment that deals with the HDMI specification in the standard way. So when we compress an image or we convert an image into something else, then that Dolby Vision information is lost. So if you pass it through a video over IP system, except at Lona's OmniStream Pro, which will cost you $2,500 an end and $700 a transmitter to certify it or to add the Dolby license. So therefore, as a general rule, you can't do Dolby Vision on video over IP. And then with HDBaseT, where there's any fault, well, DSC, so display stream compression, that will kill the Dolby Vision off. Color space conversion will also kill the Dolby Vision off. There is a version of Dolby Vision called low latency mode. It's not something that I've seen on any source device yet, but that is supposed to be a method of Dolby Vision that survives compression and conversion, but we've yet to see that alive and well. So if you want to do Dolby Vision and your customer is absolutely after Dolby Vision, it's pure HDMI. So most active optical cables will do that job for you over long distances, no problem. But it's why we're seeing Apple TV 4Ks snuck up behind televisions, because they're cheap-ish. I can't afford one. What am I saying? They're an investment, but on a HDMI lead into the back of a telly gives you the utmost image experience that you can get hold of. HDR10 is a form of static HDR. The metadata is preserved, sort of. The flag is not. So the flag is reinserted at the far end by any compressed method. So yeah, Dolby Vision is, if you want to keep it, you've got to keep it pure. So HDMI video distribution, HDMI cabling. HDMI 2.1 arrives, we'll all be all right again. Yay, hopefully. In short.
Right, we've had to say goodbye to Aidan. We've had to say goodbye to Aidan. He's had to leave because he's got another webinar, which I think is rude, Dan. You can pass that on to me.
He's running a webinar on ACM 200 configuration, and I think our other man is on a tech support call from someone who's actually gone out to site to work contentiously.
All right. You have to explain. You know what I mean, Justin? This is why I'm always going to stick with you, mate.
Just don't get, you see, we're here till the end.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't get dropped like that. Just horrible, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a horrible way.
We don't flout the law after Boris went on TV and told everybody to stay at home.
Exactly that. Well, I think we'll call it quits today. Thank you very much to both of you for being involved. I really appreciate it. Next week, I sound like I'm on CBeebies. Next week.
Stay tuned. This time next week.
So next week, I think we're going to try and get 2 cinema companies. So that'll be fun, because you know how they love each other, all those speaker manufacturers. And yeah, we're going to do something with those guys and talk about cinema layouts, specifying certain things, how to speak to clients, sales. The other type, I suppose the other part of the job that we do is the sales passer, the sales technique, all that kind of thing. I think the guys, especially the guys that do the cinema stuff, that do the super highbrow, they're fantastic at kind of relaying that information to everyone and getting comfortable on how to upsell things and how to spec things and all that thing. So yeah,
you got Andy Oates from 1AV on that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, Andy Oates loves a bit of that. You know he does. So thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it. Send my love to Aidan, my bold brother. And thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate your time, both of you. And I'm sure this comes from the whole community. You know, we appreciate everything that you're doing, and thanks for being a part of it.
No worries.
Pleasure. From us, thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for supporting our brands. Thanks for staying in business. And thanks for the love. We look forward to helping you out. It's been a pleasure.
Cool, man. All right. Peace out, everyone. Stay safe.
Cheers.